Why would someone walk away from a comfortable life in Norway and never go back? I've made that jump myself twice, so I know how dangerous that decision feels. Most people think about it, but very few actually do it. So today, I'm meeting Endre, a fellow Norwegian that built a completely different life here in Uganda. And I want to understand one thing. Why did he walk through that door when most people don't? Come hang out and let's see if he made the right choice. All right, I think I found my buddy Endre's place. Oh, and there is the man himself. Hello, hello.
Hey.
Hey. Man, nice to see you.
Time,
yeah,
long
very
time.
long time.
Very long time.
And this is your cafe?
Yes.
Wow.
This is our
This looks amazing. So cozy.
Thanks. Yeah, this is our humble new home. So this, welcome to Wild Coffee Bar.
Wow. This looks.
We even have a small coffee tree here.
Oh.
Which is still very young. I think these things here will soon give some flowers, which will then evolve into the first coffee cherries, and where then there will be a few coffee beans.
So, how long has it been since I met you? It was in Norway a very long time ago.
I think it's more than 20 years ago, and it could even be 25. I think, or it's quite a long time ago. Yeah. Since we worked together in the good old TV days in Norway.
Me and Endre were doing a TV show together in Norway. So before I was working as a director in Hollywood doing music videos, TV commercials, I started out working with TV shows in Norway. So there was a music-based TV show that I was directing, and you were the editor for that show. A long time ago, decades ago, you know. You look very similar though, I gotta say, you know, yeah.
No more gray hairs, nothing.
Yeah, pretty much. Since we worked together decades ago, and how did you end up here?
That's kind of a long story, I guess. Of course, for quite a long while, I continue working with film and TV, mostly in Norway. I worked a lot with documentaries and a lot of really interesting and exciting projects. It was great, and I loved what I was doing. Some of those jobs that I was working on, they took me to Africa. Actually, I think my first visit to Africa was in '98 when I visited Congo. I went deep into Congo, and it was, an adventure of a lifetime to go to a place like that. And that, of course, that put the first seed kind of in me of Africa and falling in love with Africa. The reason I went there in '98 was to make a documentary about two old Norwegian ladies, 80 years old, who had lived here in deep in the jungle of Congo for almost their whole life. Their life had been totally like an adventure, and they refused to go back to Norway. They said, we're gonna live here, die here, be buried here. Africa was their home, and it was extremely inspiring, to meet those ladies and hear their stories and see their perspective on life and their deep love for Africa. And now here I am.
Endre, it's fascinating to hear about your story, about your first trips to Africa and your reaction to those trips, because I can relate to them personally quite a lot myself, because, just having grown up in the western part of the world and having set up my life in such a way that I've basically followed the rules, And I actually had a lot of success in the Western world and worked really hard to get to the level that I was dreaming about. Yet, when I sort of made it to the top of the industry I was working in, basically I've been working as a director, making music videos and commercials in Hollywood with some of the most well-known artists in the world, and it's a really hard job. It was difficult to get there, and I'm actually proud of what I was able to achieve there. And basically spent a lot of energy and time to get to that position. But I was still sort of questioning myself if, is this it? Did I really do things correctly? Or are there other parts of the world or other ways to live life that would fit me more? And that's actually what this channel is about. It's me kind of searching for the good life, or sort of searching for what my personal paradise should be, because I'm not sure if the life I was leading in the Western world is the best life that I could sort of set myself up for. Let's check this out. Here we go. Got different coffees here. I think I'm gonna order a green and sweet smoothie, and also a cappuccino, single shot. Basically, you set yourself up for a really nice life in Norway, but coming to Africa, exploring different other parts of the world. What were your thoughts as you were experiencing this part of the world?
For me, it's a little bit similar, I would say. I really enjoyed what I was doing in Norway, and I enjoyed my career. I felt it was meaningful, and it gave me a lot. What sort of started a chain of thoughts for me was, as I got a bit deeper I got to know Africa a bit better, and I saw the opportunities for a very different life. The more I thought about it, and the more I thought about doing this project, the more I started to believe in it. I thought this is something that is really worth making a try for. And I don't want to sit there at the end of my life and say, you know, I didn't try. I had this opportunity in my life where a door was there, you know, that I could open and step through, and I didn't do it. Maybe now it's time to go through the other door and to see what's in the other room, and to see what you can do for the next. Okay, maybe it's gonna be just 1 or 2 years. You know, I didn't know that when I started out. If this is something that, you know, I would say, no, this is, you know, okay, I tried, it didn't work out, let me go back to my life. You know, you can always go back. And I think that's, that of course is like a safety valve kind of, you know, there is no, you don't, there is no, like, it's not like a one-way ticket. So I didn't, initially I didn't jump in, you know, with both feet. I sort of took a step and started the process, started, you know, doing the first steps of this journey. But I sort of had like a back door.
So, you know, I can really relate to what you were saying about how you didn't just make the jump over from Norway to Uganda. You kind of did it in baby steps where you went back and forth, because that's how I did it in my own journey when I first left Norway about 25 years ago to pursue my career in the US, in Hollywood. I actually spent 17 years in the US, and in the last 5 years or so, I've been mostly traveling in Asia and now Africa, and I'm just curious about other parts of the world. So I've sort of done this jump from being established in one country, one culture, and then slowly thinking the idea of, you know what, maybe there's something else out there, and you know, it feels dangerous. Should I make this move, or what's going to happen? You know, what could go wrong? You know, will I lose everything if I move now? It feels dangerous. So I've done this 2 times, and both times when I left Norway, it was a sort of baby step process where I made trips and slowly made connections and slowly started setting my life up in the US. It wasn't a sort of like big jump. Let's just jump into it. You know, that would have probably felt a lot more dangerous to me, you know. And the same thing when I left the US, I sort of felt like, you know, I don't want to be 95 years old and feel like I've lived the same place, lived the same life, lived the same lifestyle, had the same job throughout my whole life. I want to kind of feel like I'm experiencing different lives in one lifetime in a way, you know. So, but it was a very, very hard decision to make, because I had, you know, spent so much time setting up my life in the US, and it was a very difficult decision to make. So it was something that I had to do what I did when I left Norway, where I had to kind of get used to the idea and then start to kind of like make more and more trips to look at different parts of the world while I still kept my career in the US going and still shot music videos and TV commercials until I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I feel comfortable with this new digital nomad lifestyle and I think I can make it work. And then I, basically made the last step where I, basically returned my green card to the US and left to explore different other parts of the world, So long story short, I'm just wondering if that was the sort of like mental process that you were going through as well. And also, do you have any advice for other people that might be watching this and that are having the same type of thoughts where they're curious about maybe exploring life in other parts of the world? What would you say?
So for me, I think I was fortunate that I had already visited Uganda and East Africa several times. And on those trips, I had built some relationships. I had some friends and some connections. So I didn't come to a completely strange place with no people. And I think one of the very, very key things for me was that I had a couple of people here who I could really trust, who were very, very helpful. And I knew that, if there was a difficult situation, I could always get them their help. They were kind of like my fixers, who knew the local systems and anything that would be needed to solve a tricky situation or something like that.
All right, here's my smoothie. What's the smoothie again?
Green and sweet smoothie.
Ah, green and sweet. All right, let's try the smoothie here. The green, what was it? Green and
sweet.
The green and sweet smoothie. Let's try it. Very green and sweet. What's in this one again?
Yeah, what's in it? It's avocado at least.
You're supposed to know this,
I can't know all the recipes. I leave that to the experts.
I see.
My job is in the office.
But this is very good. Once you had made it over here, tell me about how you met your wife.
We met through Facebook.
Oh.
So that's how we got in touch, sort of, first virtually. And then we met here in Kampala and things happened really quick.
Nice.
So yeah,
it was love at first sight?
I can't speak for Nicole, but for me it was, yes.
Nice.
It really was. I was like struck by lightning, and things got serious quite quickly, and sort of before you knew it, we had 2 boys. And for me, that was of course a big personal change, because I had lived my whole life, never been married, never had any children. And I thought, I was almost convinced that was, that was me, that was my life, and I was fine with that. I thought that that's probably nice for those who are ready for that, but for me, I think it's better for me that I'm just myself and single, and that's it.
Would you say the dating dynamic is very different here compared to what it's like back home in Norway?
It's hard to say sometimes, has the world become, more like, because of, how we now are connected, and we are now all using the same phones and the same apps and the same technology to stay connected and get connected and so on. Or maybe we have never, been that different even before we had the technology.
Interesting. I came here just to meet you and see how expat life is like here in Uganda, but you got such an interesting story. Could you tell me, what would you say life is like in Uganda? How would you describe it to other people that haven't been here or haven't lived expat life here? How would you describe it?
It is a really lovely place. Climate-wise, it's perfect. I would say it's 25 degrees the whole year, fluctuate maybe between 20 and up to close to 30, but it's just around 25. Basically sunny every day. We have the occasional rainy showers, but it's just for 1 or 2 hours and then the sun is back shining again. The other amazing thing is the people. Ugandan people are very warm, welcoming, extremely welcoming. They love to meet new people. Foreigners are always welcome. Here, Christians, Muslims, and other live together very, very, very well. Everything is chilled. You can date, you can marry, all those things.
It sounds to me like you are involved in the coffee industry in a deeper way than just running a cafe here.
Yeah, that's true. This place, this cafe is a nice place to have, to just meet people, show who we are, and let people come and meet us and try our coffee and so on. So it's wonderful to have a place like this. But the main reason I came here is to be part of the value addition and to do the roasting and the export of roasted coffee. We have won a couple of awards, including African Excellence Award for the best Ugandan coffee brand.
Congratulations.
Thanks, thank you.
I assume you must have let some of your coffee farmers taste the actual product. What's their reaction like when they taste the product?
Yeah, that's really fun. When we go and visit the farmers, we always collect samples and we roast those samples, and then we can brew them and we can serve it to the farmers themselves. And we have done that many times, both here in Uganda and also in some of the neighboring countries where they have a similar kind of situation as you have here. And it's amazing. I feel like it's a gift, that you can do something like that to people who have grown a product for their whole life, and finally to let them taste it. It's really amazing, and for them it's a surprise, I think, because I think they don't know what to expect. But everyone, they love it when they can taste it. They really like it.
Tell me, when you first arrived in Uganda, what was your first impression of this place?
Yeah, the first impression definitely is the hustle of Uganda, and especially Kampala. There is a lot of activity going on everywhere, especially this kind of, the small scale entrepreneurs, the small street businesses that you see everywhere.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because in the car heading over here, I actually saw probably 50 different sort of street vendors selling stuff in the streets, everything from fruits to bike tires to belts to pretty much anything you could imagine, and they were just kind of walking from car to car. So I guess you could say that Ugandans are very entrepreneurial.
100%. Uganda is considered one of the most entrepreneurial countries in the world, actually.
Oh, wow.
They have an extremely high entrepreneurship rate.
You mentioned that there's an amazing architectural building here, a restaurant that's pretty cool around the corner. Do you think you can show me before the sun is completely down?
Definitely, I'll be happy to take you there.
All right, cool. Yeah, let's go take a look. So on our way to the restaurant, we ran into an old friend of Endre's right outside his cafe. And at first it felt random, but this guy turned out to be something special. A talented local artist with a real story. This is Stanley.
A couple of years ago, when Stanley was really starting on his arts career, he was painting one painting every day. Every day, one new painting, and they're really nice paintings.
Committed to become one of the best artists.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you a question? How do you guys know each other?
When I was visiting Uganda many years ago, even before I moved here, but I sometimes, I was around here. I usually stayed here when I was visiting friends, and Stanley and his friends, when he was just a young boy of like 7, 8, 10 years, they were selling bananas on the street.
Yeah.
And now you are an excellent painter here, is what Endre is saying.
Now I've painted for like, all the time that I met him, I started painting like so young. I used to make like this wooden stuff, like the bracelet, the necklace. Now, because now I've upgraded into paintings. Yeah, nowadays I'm focusing on paintings. Yeah, right now.
All right, Endre. Where are we heading now?
Yeah, now we're going to this Japanese restaurant, which is just here in the neighborhood, which was opened a few years ago. There's a Japanese couple who runs it, and it's designed by a Japanese architect. It's a really beautiful place.
Cool.
Very unique building.
Let's check it out. All right, this is the restaurant that you mentioned, right?
And I think maybe this is the owner. Hey! Long time.
Long time, how have you been?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you.
You too? How is everything?
Fine, yeah.
I brought a friend from Norway who's visiting.
Hi.
Hey,
most
how's it
welcome.
going? I'm Ray. So, is there a lot of international food here in Kampala?
Yes, yes, there is now. Now you can find food from all around the world, I think. I think it has changed a lot over the last 5 to 10 years. A lot of new places are coming up, and the quality is improving all the time. So, yeah, you can really enjoy yourself if you like nice food here.
That's great. So this is Japanese.
Yes.
This, what's the name again?
Yamasen,
Yamasen.
Yamasen restaurant.
And this is one of your favorites.
Absolutely, yeah. This is the best Japanese food in Kampala.
Oh. So there you have it. Once you've been to Wild, go over to check out Yamasen as well for some good Japanese food. All right, so now we've moved into a restaurant here. And what are we looking at in the background here?
My work, yeah, my paintings, yeah.
Amazing. Can you show us? Tell us a little bit about what we are looking at here.
Yeah, those paintings I always like do like the expression of like young people in Africa, like in black culture. Yeah, like I'm inspired by the American hip hop, huge fan of American hip hop. Even I did a painting of Jay-Z. Jay-Z is behind there. Even Rihanna, the Rockefeller family. I'm into hip hop, into fashion, yeah, black excellence, yeah.
I like how you put this together. A very cool style. You are very artistic.
Yeah, very artistic. I have even my own unique style. Yeah, I've developed it like for almost like 5 years, but I've painted like for 10 years. I've been with that style, my unique style, like for 5 years. Now I've painted for 10 years. Yeah.
Do you sell your work online, or is there a way people could get in touch with you?
Online, yeah. I always use Stanley at BIA. Online, Instagram, mostly 70% of my work I always do it online, but this is the 30%. I always sell it into restaurants, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Very cool. We'll put your website on the screen here where people can access and watch your work, yeah?
I appreciate that a lot, yeah.
Of course. Can you show us the other pieces you've done here?
You can show them around, yeah. This is the Rihanna one, yeah. Yeah, like there is this one for Rihanna with like some Ethiopian lady, yeah.
This is Rihanna, no?
Yeah, Rihanna, yeah, black excellence, yeah.
Very cool. I love your style here. This looks amazing.
The skin, yeah.
And this must be Lauryn Hill over here.
Yeah, kind of, but an Ethiopian lady, yeah.
Oh, it's in Ethiopia.
Yeah. Yeah, I always mix up everything, yeah.
You know, I've been thinking about this a lot. We're being told that the West is the best place to live at, and we're being told that success looks a certain way. But success is personal, and so is courage. And when I left Norway the first time, it felt dangerous. And when I left the US later, it felt even more dangerous. Walking away from something you've built seems unlogical. It doesn't make sense on paper. It feels risky. Sometimes staying feels even more risky. Endre built a life that most people would never dare to try. Not because it was easy, but because he didn't want to sit there one day and wonder what would have happened if he didn't try. Sometimes life gives you a door and you don't know what's on the other side, and you don't know if it's going to work. You do know one thing: if you don't open it, you'll always wonder. So maybe open the door. Until next time, peace, love, and San Miguel light.